Good morning. Great to see you all again today. I hope you're still enjoying some of the glow from yesterday's panels and plenaries. I know I am. And my favorite part about it, as predicted, is seeing old friends and meeting new. The Conference Central app and the chat boxes seem to be doing their thing. So please keep it up. Stay active, talking in there. And I hope you got a good night's sleep, because we have another exciting and full day ahead of us. Here's what you have to look forward to. We're starting the day right here with a plenary featuring congressional leaders. More on that in a minute. Afterwards, we have a couple of more rounds of workshops at 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 Pacific. The Reverend Dr. William Barber is joining us for a keynote address. It's an event you won't want to miss. Then we're all heading to Conference Central at 4 p.m. Eastern for networking and more of what we had yesterday in there. So are you ready? Let's get our day started with a view towards Capitol Hill. That's right. I can't quite see it from here, but we are, I can tell you, hearing from up there that we are on the cusp of historic levels of investment in all aspects of our communities. Rural broadband, rural housing. A lot of that money is already on its way thanks to the recent passage of the infrastructure bill. And with the passage of the Build Back Better Act in the House of Representatives, we're as close as we've ever been to $150 billion in new housing investments and a new rural partnership program at USDA to focus squarely on building up the capacity of local housing organizations and community development groups and the national intermediaries that support them. We heard about it yesterday from Senators Merkley, Baldwin, Leahy, and Congresswoman Axne. Today we have the honor of hearing from two members of House leadership, champions of rural communities. Their focus on serving every part of America has been invaluable to getting us in the room in these discussions and where we are with the bills. I think it's going to be key to getting us across the finish line. I hear rumors of Senate consideration as soon as next week. Fingers crossed. In this pivotal moment, I am excited that we'll have a chance to hear more about the priorities direct from leadership. Afterwards, we'll present Rural Housing Service Awards to 6 individuals and organizations that have made positive and lasting impacts in rural America. The last 21 months have been marked by both incredible challenges, a national reckoning on racial inequality, and our 6 awardees have made the most of these moments to help us against these challenges and change for a new normal and a better approach. I can't wait for you to learn more about their work. So without further ado, introducing Chairwoman Waters is my dear friend and longtime HAC board member, Gideon Anders.
Greetings to all of you attending the National Rural Housing Conference. My name is Gideon Anders. I'm a senior attorney at the National Housing Law Project and a member of the Housing Assistance Council's Board of Directors. It is my honor to introduce Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the chair of the House Financial Services Committee. She is a fearless and outspoken advocate for women, children, people of color, and poor veterans and seniors. She's in her 16th term representing the 43rd Congressional District of California, which encompasses the southern part of Los Angeles and cities and unincorporated areas of Los Angeles County to the south of the city. It is a diverse district, which she carried in 2020 with over 78% of the vote. Congresswoman Waters is the first woman and first African-American chair of the House Financial Services Committee, which oversees the national housing and financial services sectors, including banking, insurance, real estate, securities, and most importantly, from our perspective, public and assisted housing, including rural housing. She's an integral member of the Congressional Democratic leadership. She serves as a member of the Steering and Policy Committee and is a co-chair of the bipartisan Congressional Task Force on Alzheimer's. She's also a founding member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and a member and past chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. The past 2 years have been a historically busy time in Congress, and Chairwoman Waters has been a critical part of the recovery and infrastructure negotiations, where she has continued to champion affordable and urban and rural housing. She joins us to share updates on her work on the Build Back Better bill, which passed the House 2 weeks ago and includes new and critical resources for rural housing. Chairwoman Waters.
Thank you to you, HAC, your policy team, and your board of directors, which includes my friend, Representative Benny Thompson, for your consistent advocacy in support of the housing needs of America's rural communities. Today, more than 6 million households in rural and small town America pay more than 30% of their income on housing costs, with over 2.6 million paying more than half of their entire income on housing. This is unacceptable. For a long time, it has been clear that this nation's housing infrastructure is in urgent need of long overdue investments. So in 2019, I coined the phrase, housing is infrastructure. And as chairwoman of the Financial Services Committee, I've made sure that this message includes the unique housing needs of rural and small town America. The election of President Biden and the appointment of HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge gave Democrats and Congress partners in the administration who are willing to devote significant resources to rural housing. I began this work with the American Rescue Plan Act, funding especially for USDA rural housing programs, including $100 million for rental assistance for tenants in USDA financed properties who were not already receiving rental assistance and lost income because of the pandemic, as well as $39 million for new Section 502 direct mortgage loans and Section 504 repair loans to assist struggling homeowners. But the American Rescue Plan was just the beginning. We are now poised to pass an even larger investment in housing programs through the Build Back Better Act. The Build Back Better Act provides over $150 billion for housing programs, an investment which will create retrofit or preserve over 1 million housing units. In addition, I've worked to make sure that the Build Back Better Act includes targeted investment in rural housing. The Build Back Better Act provides a $2 billion investment for rural housing programs and $1.8 billion in funding for USDA programs, which will preserve, create, or repair hundreds of homes under Section 514 and 516 farm labor housing and over 26,000 houses for rural, low-income, disabled, and elderly families under Section 515. The bill also provides $100 million to provide rural rental assistance, helping nearly 27,000 people pay their bills, and another $100 million to support critical home repairs that rural homeowners have been forced to put on the back burner for far too long. This legislation also includes $3 billion in CDBG funding. Now, given the Housing Assistance Council's longstanding commitment and research on the tremendous needs of colonials, I am pleased to report that the bill includes $700 million for colonials as well as $500 million for manufactured housing communities. These investments will play an important role in Native and rural communities. You should know that these housing investments were informed by the many things I've learned and examined over the years through congressional hearings, stakeholder meetings, and your advocacy about the needs of rural communities. Without your efforts, we wouldn't be here today with the resources. And so I'm pleased that we were able to preserve these robust investments in the Build Back Better Act that will allow rural America to finally receive direct and much needed relief. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you today. And I look forward to your continued support in getting the Build Back Better Act to President Biden's desk for his signature. Thank you so very much.
Greetings from Galveston to the 2021 National Rural Housing Conference. I am Maria Luisa Mercado, and I am the chair of the Housing Assistance Council Board of Directors. It is my honor today to introduce Congressman James E. Clyburn, the Majority Whip and the third-ranking Democrat in the United States House of Representatives. He is also the chairman of the Rural Broadband Task Force and Democratic Faith Working Group. When he came to Congress in 1993 to represent South Carolina's 6th Congressional District, Congressman Clyburn was elected co-president of his freshman class and quickly rose through leadership ranks. He was subsequently elected chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, vice chairman, and later chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. He previously served as Majority Whip from 2007 to 2011 and served as Assistant Democratic Leader from 2011 to 2019. As a national leader, he has championed rural and economic development, and many of his initiatives have become law. His 10-20-30 federal funding formula seeks to ensure that persistently poor communities are equitably served by federal programs, something that HAC has long supported. Congressman Clyburn is also a passionate supporter of historic preservation and restoration programs. His efforts have restored scores of historic buildings and sites on the campuses of historically Black colleges and universities. Congressman Clyburn has been a champion for areas of persistent poverty for decades and will be sharing his work to address the needs of persistently poor rural communities and to advance rural affordable housing and community development. We welcome Congressman Clyburn to the virtual stage and thank him for joining us today.
Hello, I'm Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina's 6th Congressional District. Thank you, Maria, for your kind introduction. Congratulations on the 50th anniversary of the Housing Assistance Council. It's an honor to be a part of your celebration. The American people are very aware that our country faces a housing affordability crisis. But when most people think about this crisis, they think about urban areas. You all know, as I do, that this picture is incomplete. Our nation faces housing affordability challenges in communities of all types, in all areas, urban, suburban, and rural. Nowhere is this clearer than in my home state of South Carolina. In the Eviction Lab's rankings of communities with the highest eviction rate, South Carolina is all too well represented in all 3 categories: large, mid-sized, and rural. The large city with the highest eviction rate is North Charleston in my congressional district. Columbia, also in my district, ranks number 8. The highest eviction mid-sized city is St. Andrews, South Carolina, which is also in my district. Our state has 4 communities in the top 15. South Carolina's representation is even worse in the rural categories, with 10 of the 20 rural communities with the highest rate of eviction. Maybe the most interesting thing about those rankings is how eviction rates compare between the categories. These data show that eviction rates in rural America are significantly higher than rates in urban America. We must bring down evictions everywhere, but we have the most work to do in rural communities. Thank you for your leadership in this work. With these challenges facing my district and state, Housing affordability, especially in rural areas, is one of our top priorities in Congress. With your help, we have been able to make progress. At a minimum, it is essential that anyone facing eviction has access to legal assistance. This can often be the difference between a tenant staying in their home or being evicted. That's why I work with David Price to introduce the Legal Assistance to Prevention Eviction Act, authorizing funding to provide legal assistance to low-income tenants at risk of eviction. We worked with the Housing Assistance Council to ensure that the bill included provisions to ensure equity for rural communities so they aren't overlooked. Thanks to your support, we were able to appropriate $20 million for eviction legal assistance in fiscal year 2021. The appropriations bill the House has passed for fiscal year 2022 will provide another $20 million. HUD is reviewing applications now, and we expect the funds to go out in the coming weeks. Help is on the way, and thank you for helping to make it possible. Of course, our goal must be to ensure that no one finds themselves in need of this legal assistance to prevent eviction. That means we must ensure that all Americans have access to housing that they can afford. One essential policy tool that promotes the construction and rehabilitation of affordable housing is the low-income housing tax credit. After the 2017 Republican tax bill weakened the impact of this credit, I introduced a bill and has co-sponsored others to restore its full strength. The Consolidated Appropriations Act we passed last December included a provision ensuring that the rehabilitation credit rate does not fall below 4%. This is projected to result in the construction or preservation of 126,000 affordable units over the next 10 years. The Build Back Better Act includes additional provisions to strengthen the credit even more. In addition to ensuring that the tax code promotes affordable housing, we must also ensure that state and local governments do the same. That's why Senator Booker and I introduced the HOME Act, which will require recipients of federal funds to develop and implement strategies to increase the availability of affordable housing. The Build Back Better Act, which has passed the House, includes $1.75 billion for this purpose. While these national policies are essential, we know that to ensure that rural communities receive the assistance they need, we must have policies that proactively target assistance to those areas. That is especially true of persistent poverty counties, which are communities that have had a poverty rate of at least 20% over the last 30 years. There are between 400 and 500 counties throughout the United States that meet the criteria to be designated persistent poverty counties. 7 are in my congressional district, all of which are rural. Over many decades, even as the country has gone through periods of rapid economic growth, these counties have remained highly impoverished. That is why when we were developing the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009, I applied what is known as the 10-20-30 formula to 3 USDA rural development programs, including the Rural Community Facilities Program account at the Rural Housing Service. This formula required that at least 10% of the funds in these accounts be spent in persistent poverty counties. Under the Recovery Act's 10-20-30 provision, the Rural Housing Services Community Facilities Program invested more than $200 million in more than 300 projects. One of these projects was a direct loan of $3,625,000 to the Okollah Sioux Lakota Housing Authority in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, to build a new green administration building. This housing authority was the first Indian housing authority in the country and the first housing authority of any kind in South Dakota. The 10-20-30 initiative made it better to be able to serve the nearly 30,000 residents of Pine Ridge Reservation, managing more than 1,500 low-income rural units and 500 home ownership units. Ever since the success of the 10-20-30 formula in the Recovery Act, we have been working to expand it throughout the federal budget. We have made significant progress. Much of that progress came when Hal Rogers was chairman of the Appropriations Committee and the Republicans were in the majority. Hal Rogers represents 28 persistent poverty counties in eastern Kentucky, underscoring the fact that rural poverty transcends party and transcends race. We have continued making progress. Recognizing the housing challenges facing persistent poverty counties in rural America, we have sought to expand the formula to housing programs. Senator Booker and I introduced a bill that would apply the formula to HUD's Fair Housing Initiatives program. I appreciate the Housing Assistance Council's support for that proposal. In fiscal year 2021, the appropriations bill, we succeeded for the first time in enacting a provision that incorporates the 10-20-30 approach to a housing program. The omnibus appropriations bill that was enacted into law included a $5 million competitive grant program at HUD for competitive grants to nonprofit or private sector organizations to provide technical assistance to local governments or nonprofit organizations that serve areas of persistent poverty. All these challenges and proposals to address them predate the coronavirus pandemic. As all of you know very well, this public health crisis has led to nearly unimaginable economic challenges that have threatened housing security for millions of our fellow Americans, urban and rural alike. In South Carolina, for example, census data showed that over 20% of renting households fell behind on their rent in almost every rural county in the state. Congress responded to this unprecedented crisis with unprecedented measures. The eviction moratorium, tens of billions of dollars of rental assistance, and the wider financial assistance have kept millions of Americans in their homes. However, any eviction is one eviction too many. I serve as chairman of the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus crisis. Our mission is ensuring that our response to the pandemic is effective, efficient, and equitable. We have taken a close look at the shortcomings in the distribution of the emergency rental assistance funds. As you well know, many states and local governments were far too slow to disperse rental assistance funds to keep people in their homes. The Select Subcommittee held a hearing that examined the practices that were slowing these programs down and the best practices for getting aid to those in need. Experts told us that state and local governments needed to increase outreach, reduce paperwork burdens, and take action to help tenants with uncooperative landlords. I urge the slowest distributing states, most of them largely rural, to adopt these best practices and streamline the delivery of assistance. Problems certainly remain, but the data show the distribution of rental assistance has accelerated and over 1.5 million households have benefited from the aid. The Department of the Treasury has developed a plan for requiring improvement plans from states that have been too slow to distribute aid and will gradually reallocate funds from ineffective programs. The Select Subcommittee continues to monitor these efforts to ensure that the federal pandemic rental assistance funds keep as many families in their homes as possible. These emergency measures have helped limit the harm caused by the pandemic, but we can't be satisfied by a return to the pre-pandemic status quo. I often reference Alexis de Tocqueville's quote, "The greatness of America lies not in being more enlightened than any other nation, but rather in her ability to repair her faults." End of quote. The coronavirus pandemic exposed many long-standing faults that must be repaired, including when it comes to housing. The Build Back Better Act, which as I am recording this message is about to go to the Senate, will repair many of them. In addition to the funding to incent zoning reform that I mentioned earlier, the Build Back Better Act includes significant investments that will fund the construction, rehabilitation, and improvement of more than 1 million affordable homes. It includes funding for rental assistance so that low-income Americans can afford their rent. It isn't as much as I wanted, but it will make a big difference around the country. The bill also includes $2 billion specifically for construction and maintenance of rental housing in rural areas, and $3 billion for a community restoration and revitalization fund for areas in need of housing, investment, including areas with high and persistent rates of poverty. I have long believed that we should support home ownership, especially for disadvantaged communities who have not had the opportunity to build the wealth that home ownership can provide. The Build Back Better Act includes more than $15 billion in investments in first-time and low-income homeowners, including $100 million through USDA to help rural Americans repair, upgrade, and preserve their homes. Of course, quality housing is about more than just having a roof over your head. To participate fully in 21st century life, a person's housing must include high-quality internet that they can afford. Yet millions of Americans living in rural areas do not have access. Without it, they cannot benefit from telehealth, even though the nearest provider is many miles away. Students have to do their assignments in the parking lots of restaurants or libraries, and remote work is impossible, even during a pandemic that requires social distancing. The bipartisan infrastructure bill that we just passed and signed into law by the president provides $65 billion to finally bring high-speed internet service to unserved and underserved communities. It includes provisions to prioritize persistent poverty communities and ensures that the next WorkSuite bill not only go to obsolete after a year or two, will not go obsolete after a year or two. These provisions are there because history tells us about large-scale funding efforts that all too often are left behind or provide inadequate results. Knowing these lessons, I have worked hard to make sure we don't make the same mistakes with broadband. Critically, the bill does not stop at building the physical infrastructure. It also requires that the service offered is affordable for everyone in the community, and it continues the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, which provides a monthly discount to help qualifying households pay their internet bills. Our approach combines access, affordability, and adoption because we know that solving existing disparities in rural areas is a multifaceted issue that deserves persistent attention. I will be working to ensure that it is implemented effectively. High-quality housing also requires high-quality drinking water and wastewater systems. The Build Back Better Act includes nearly $100 million for rural water and wastewater programs in persistent poverty counties and other vulnerable communities, and nearly $1 billion to replace lead water lines in rural America. This funding will supplement the money for lead remediation in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Housing must also have access to clean, efficient energy. The Build Back Better Act includes $200 million for rural energy savings programs, which makes loans to rural Americans for energy efficiency upgrades, which is then paid back by savings in energy costs. The bill provides increased funding to support these loans in persistent poverty counties. Housing must also be connected to people's jobs by transportation infrastructure. The Build Back Better Act includes nearly $10 billion for an affordable housing access program that will do just that. Over the past several years, rural America has become more and more doubtful that government can make a positive difference in their lives. Because for a long time, it hasn't. Now is our opportunity to fix that. These investments in President Biden's Build Back Better agenda are the most significant investments in rural America since the New Deal. With your help, we will repair the faults in our rural communities and enable them to thrive in the 21st century. Thank to all of you and for all you've done for housing in rural America and for the last 50 years. I'm looking forward to the next 50. Thank you and Godspeed.
Good morning. My name is Tim Rios, and I have the privilege to lead Rural Native American and Alaska Native Strategy at Wells Fargo. It's an honor to be here with you this morning, or this afternoon for some of you. I would like to thank David Lipsitz and his amazing team at HAC. At Wells Fargo, we're proud of our relationship with HAC, and we may even start calling ourselves Hacksters, much like the employees of HAC that care so much about rural communities. I count myself as one of those as well. We're encouraged by the work that so many of you are doing to lift up rural communities. HAC's mission is a simple one: to help rural communities build and preserve decent and affordable housing for low-income people. HAC cares about the most underserved, highest need groups and regions, including the Central Appalachia, the border colonias, the Mississippi Delta, and rural Southeast, and Native American lands and farm worker communities. We do too, and we hope to do even more, especially in persistent poverty regions. Recently, we created a rural task force that allows dozens of us to connect on issues where Wells Fargo can have the greatest impact in rural and indigenous communities. One of those making a difference in our company is Bonnie Wright, who also serves as a board of on the board of directors of HAC. Connie is one of my best friends at work, and I feel privileged to learn from her. Like some of you, or perhaps many of you, my beginnings were also in rural. I was born in a little ranch outside of the town of Nochistlán, Zacatecas, Mexico. When we immigrated into the early 1980s, here in the early 1980s, we settled in the town of Delray, California, population 1,250. We lived 3 miles from town, and my parents and us kids worked in the fields of the Central Valley when we came here. There wasn't much in Little Delray, a small grocery store, a gas station that opened for just 4 hours a day, and a K-8 elementary school. And then when I started here at Wells Fargo in 1997, one of my first assignments was to represent our company at a groundbreaking for one of our partners in housing, People Self-Help Housing here in California. That event would launch my professional interest in rural housing. Today, I get to shape Wells Fargo's rural strategy and our philanthropy, a job that I don't take lightly. With more than 330 rural branches, including 57 in or near Native reservation and Alaska Native lands and reservations, Wells Fargo works with hundreds of organizations like HAC that are helping to create and improve housing in rural areas. Rural America gives much to this country and to the world. Nevertheless, rural towns and cities face unique housing challenges. We must put our heads together and bring more resources to build the capacity of housing organizations in rural places and Indian country. It was appropriate then that this conference started with a session titled Financing Tribal Affordable Housing Development that included several great panelists, including my colleague, Amy Anderson. As the year turns, I will be anxious to meet with many of you and learn about your rural and tribal housing efforts. Again, we thank our friends at HAC for your partnership and collaboration. Congratulations on this very important and successful conference. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your week, and happy holidays, everyone.
1, 2. Hi, I'm Marietta Rodriguez, President and CEO of NeighborWorks America. NeighborWorks America is a congressionally chartered nonprofit focused on advancing opportunities for people to access safe, decent, affordable housing and investing in healthy, vibrant communities. NeighborWorks also supports a network of nearly 250 locally based nonprofits focused on addressing the housing and community development needs in their communities. NeighborWorks has a long and rich history working in partnership with the Housing Assistance Council. And as such, I'm really honored to join you today. On behalf of the entire NeighborWorks family, our staff, the NeighborWorks Network, congratulations to the board and staff of the Housing Assistance Council for your 50 years of work, dedication, service, and investment into rural communities across the country. Our partnership with the Housing Assistance Council has focused on building capacity for rural groups across the country, whether through enriched data to inform better decisions, tailored tools, organizational management, or collaborative peer networks. Together, we have partnered to create stronger, more resilient rural communities. We believe that in order to create real change, rural stakeholders and partnerships at the national, regional, and local levels must work together to empower each other in building this capacity. In rural America, in cooperation with the Housing Assistance Council, NeighborWorks is committed to building communities of opportunity with a model centered on resident-led inclusivity and collaboration. NeighborWorks has been actively supporting groups in understanding equity through a rural lens, using tools such as increased board education, regional racial equity trainings, assisting with community conversations, and grant making to historically disenfranchised communities. Nevertheless, we know there is still more work to do, and NeighborWorks is committed to supporting the Housing Assistance Council and working to right the wrongs of systemic racism and inequities. Congratulations to the Housing Assistance Council. NeighborWorks looks forward to working with you, learning from you, and standing alongside you for the next 50 years.
Thanks, Marietta. I love it when technology works. Thanks for beaming in this morning. Thanks to NeighborWorks for your partnership. Really, one of the best parts of our industry is the way the organizations collaborate. I love it. And NeighborWorks embodies the best of that. Marietta, the commitment of you, Paul Singh, Sarah Kacker, other partners in your organization. Your work together with us is invaluable in helping local groups. Tim Rios, thank you also for sticking with it on the technology and getting beamed in here this morning. It's been really great to get to know you, watch your extraordinary impact through your work at Wells. Keep it up, man. You and your colleague, Connie Wright, who sits on our board, are definitely hacksters. And of course, hearkening back to Maria Luisa for your introduction of Majority Whip Clyburn, and for all the time and commitment you have provided as chair of the HAC board. You're an extraordinary leader. So now it's time for what's always one of my favorite parts of our program, the National Rural Housing Awards. These awards recognize individuals and organizations that have, through their continued work or newly established initiatives, made a positive and lasting impact in rural America. Like I said earlier, the 21 months we've just gone through have marked some incredible challenges dealing with COVID, national reckoning on inequality. Today's 6 awardees have all leaned into this moment. They've made positive impacts. They all share having made the most of this time to help their communities and people in need. This brings us to our first awardee, U.S. Senator Tina Smith from Minnesota. Senator Smith is a fierce advocate for the people of Minnesota, and she's an active champion for rural communities across the country. First elected in 2018, Senator Smith has proposed 50 plus bills that have made it into law. Prior to the Senate, she was serving as Minnesota's lieutenant governor. She started her own business. She worked as vice president at Planned Parenthood. In her time in the Senate, she has helped expand broadband, support rural electric cooperatives, pursue more funding for rental assistance contracts. She prioritizes USDA's housing maintenance and repair programs. She's made it much easier for Native families on trust land to access federal home loan guarantees and given tribes across access to funds to address homelessness. She's truly a champ for rural communities in her state, but also for all of us. She has convened Democratic senators on the Hill for a council specifically focused on rural activities, brought in countless local leaders to talk to the group and share their insight and knowledge, including us, with her and her peers. Her leadership during the last 21 months in which she formed that council and other parts has been just extraordinary. It sticks out amongst her peers as having worked tirelessly to help rural America weather the storm of this pandemic. Grants to improve rural health care, expand telehealth, leading a push for an infusion of resources for tribal nations, one of the largest in American history. She's been a champion for the diverse communities of rural America as we've worked to help our neighbors. It makes me really proud to be associated with Senator Smith and her work, and to present her with a 2021 National Rural Housing Service Award. Senator Smith.
Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Tina Smith, and congratulations to the Housing Assistance Council on your 50th anniversary. You have been strong leaders in the fight to ensure that all Americans have access to safe, decent, and affordable places to live. In addition, I want to thank you for the Rural Housing Service Award. It's an honor to receive this recognition from you. And please know that I'm dedicated to continuing to work to expand access to housing in small towns and rural places. I'm excited about the progress we're on the verge of making this year, including new investments to modernize public housing, hundreds of thousands of new vouchers to help the most vulnerable families afford stable places to live, and important new resources for the Housing Trust Fund to help construct new affordable housing across the country. but there are real challenges ahead in the next years. We're going to need to redouble our efforts to tackle racial disparities in home ownership and housing opportunities in both rural and urban communities. In my home state of Minnesota, about 70% of white families own their own home, while just over 20% of Black families are homeowners. We have to address the long history of discriminatory policies that have led to this unfortunate reality, and to so many other housing challenges for people of color and Indigenous communities. The good news is that there are important conversations and innovative approaches happening in communities across the country. For example, we're seeing communities take new approaches to long-standing hindrances by reforming outdated zoning rules. So I'm hopeful that we can all work together to learn from these creative approaches being taken around the country. I look forward to working with you on this and on so many other issues in the coming years. So again, congratulations and thank you.
Thanks, Senator Smith. I wish you much luck next week. I hope things go really well in your chamber. So congratulations again. Our next awardee is my friend and an extraordinary public servant, Kathy Glover, the Deputy Administrator for Single Family Housing at USDA's Rural Development. Under her direction are all the single family guarantee and direct loan programs. A fellow Midwesterner, in 1988, Kathy started her career with Farmers Home Administration as an assistant county supervisor in Illinois, helping single family direct loan applicants, borrowers, rural families with farm loan programs. In 95, she became a state loan specialist and moved in to the office down in Champaign, overseeing and growing the relatively new single-family housing guarantee loan program in Illinois. Her experience working with rural communities led her to Rural Development's national office, or as I imagine from the time, it led the national office to Kathy, because her work in the business programs and the single-family direct and guarantee programs have had an immense impact on the programs across the nation. She also spent a couple of years over at HUD. I share that with you, friend. She was working in FHA's home mortgage insurance division, and we've talked about the joys of both those departments together and told a few stories back and forth. I was so glad you made it back to USDA to lead the single family direct loan division by the time I got there. She was later promoted to assistant deputy administrator and then served as acting deputy administrator for a few months there. But by August 2020, I'm thrilled to report, and I think most of you know, that she's been promoted to USDA's deputy administrator for single family. The reason I say most of you know is because I think many of you know her personally. It's extraordinary. It's a testament to her accessibility, her thoughtful approach to public service. When I got to know Kathy in my years working at RHS, I saw a tireless, honest, caring steward of the program she manages, and she's the kind of colleague we all love to work with. So I personally, I'm proud, and I know it is the Housing Assistance Council's great pleasure to present the National Rural Housing Service Award to Kathy Glover.
Hi, I must say I was super happy and super surprised to be receiving this great award from the Housing Assistance Council. I'd like to thank HAC for this award. My thanks to the Board of Directors and the staff of the Housing Assistance Council for bestowing such an honor on me. It is an honor and privilege and a blessing for me to be receiving this award. I appreciate the opportunity to work alongside an organization such as HAC that advocate for the low-income rural household Americans. I'd like to thank my team at USDA Rural Development for all the great work that you do to assist me with these housing programs. I consider this a team award, not just a Kathy Glover award. I could not have received this award had it not been for my team at USDA Rural Development. Being a recipient of this award is truly an honor and a blessing for me. It is the highlight of my career. I have advocated for low-income rural Americans for over 30 years, and to be acknowledged, recognized for such work, it is definitely a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you, HAC, and all of you that are supporting low-income rural household in rural America. Your work is appreciated. And again, thank you so much for this great honor. It is definitely the highlight of my career at USDA Rural Development. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. And yes, thanks for correcting me. It's a team award. You've got an immensely talented team, dedicated public servants over there, but it is also a recognition of your contributions. So up next, the Community Action Commission of Fayette County, Ohio. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Isn't Ohio David's home state? And how heavy must his thumb been on the scale for these awards? I can only assure you that we had a call out for awards for months. We got a bunch of submissions from all around. I didn't submit a single one. My mom is not the recipient of the award next. These are awards that were, or nominations that came in from you all to us. We had a full panel review them, and we're thrilled to turn our attention next to Community Action Commission. So they started all the way back in '64, and in those 56 years, CAC Fayette County has been a leader in preserving affordable housing in Southwest Ohio. They operate the only USDA-supported self-help program in Ohio and maintain 200 rental units through the low-income housing tax credit. In addition, they administer Fayette County's land bank, which rehabs blighted and abandoned properties and returns them to the community. For 56 years, CAC of Fayette County has developed effective community programs to help their entire community thrive. Congratulations, folks. We appreciate having you as a partner.
Hi, I'm Steve Creed. I'm the Housing Director for the Community Action Commission of Fayette County here in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. We just were notified recently that we won the HAC Affordable Housing Service Award for 2021. And I want to thank HAC for this award. We were actually pretty surprised that we got this. The email came, asked for people to, respond to what they do in affordable housing. We did, and we truly do a lot. We not only do the self-help, but we do many, many other things that try to help people keep their homes intact, keep their homes safe. And there's just so many people to thank that make this all possible. I'm the one on here talking, accepting the award and whatnot. But the real people that do the work are my staff, my loan packager, Liz, my other loan packager group coordinator, Austin, my construction manager, Bill, my two construction supervisors, Brad and Frankie. Without them, this wouldn't get done. I mean, I can sit and talk and write and talk to people and do all that stuff, but it doesn't get the actual work done. It's been a tough year for everybody. And I just want to say thank you for the award. Thank you to everyone for the support we're given. And thank you to the USDA for providing this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And yes, of course, shout outs to Liz, Austin, Brad, Frankie, and the folks you work with back home. You're doing fantastic work. All right. So our next awardee is Black Belt in Central Alabama Housing in Selma. Since they were founded in 1999 out of the home of its executive director, BCAH has repaired and rehabbed more than 1,200 homes in Alabama's Black Belt. It did it with an annual budget of less than $50,000 and no paid staff. We often talk about here at the Housing Assistance Council and with our partners, kitchen table nonprofits. Well, this was the definition of such. And for them to have the kind of impact with the resources they have is extraordinary. In the last few years, BCAH has expanded greatly, added health information and food security programs, things that were extraordinarily important during the pandemic. BCAH provided critical grassroots infrastructure in their community as people attempted to respond at first to COVID and deal with its conditions for the last 2 years. I couldn't think of a better example of how a few dedicated community members can come together, improve lives of their entire community. So I'm sure your neighbors join me in thanking you. Congratulations, Black Belt and Central Alabama Housing.
On behalf of Black Belt and Central Alabama Housing, its board of directors, volunteers, and residents that live in the Black Belt area that we serve in the state of Alabama, I would like to thank Shantaria Charleston, Heck Board of Directors, for awarding our organization, Black Belt and Central Alabama Housing, the 2021 Rural Housing Service Award for our housing repair program. We'd like to thank everybody in Hack for the great work that they're doing, and we'll continue to support Hack and do whatever we can to help those that are living in the rural areas of the state of Alabama with their housing repair needs. May God bless Hack and bless all that are involved in doing this conference. May God bless you and keep you, is our prayer. This is from Black Belt and Central Alabama Housing Authority, located in Selma, Alabama. May God bless you and keep you.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad you slipped Terry's name in there. Truly a Hackster that deserves great recognition, not just for her work in putting on this conference every couple of years, but in all the days in between of delivering our technical assistance and training to local organizations. And our next our next person up is another tremendous recognition of that kitchen table nonprofit, growing an organization from small resources to extraordinary impact. It's our favorite kind of partner. You know, we often say that the door is always wide open. Come on in. We'll find a way to help. If your organization is just getting to know Hack in these years, please come on in through the front door. We'll find a way, no matter how big or small, to give you a hand. So for our next awardee, since 1994, Scott McReynolds has led Hazard, Kentucky's Housing Development Alliance. Under his leadership, it grew from one staff to a staff of 31 that's building around 20 homes a year now for low-income families. Over his career, he's overseen the construction of 300 affordable homes and rehabbed over 800 more across 4 of the nation's poorest counties. Yeah, you know, I'm glad we got Scott on the line to talk because he's a pretty quiet and humble man if you've gotten to know him. So let me brag for just a moment on him. He's already served 2,800 people in his career and has put down plans on paper for 1,000 more families over the next decade. He knows how to look back. He is definitely looking forward. Scott may be the paragon of the quiet, dedicated community servant. He changes the lives of people around him. We're honored to partner with Housing Development Alliance, and congratulations, Scott.
Greetings from East Kentucky. I'm Scott McReynolds, and I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Development Alliance in Hazard, Kentucky. HDA is a 28-year-old nonprofit whose mission is to use the power of housing to transform lives and build a brighter future for our community. We operate a home ownership program, a home repair program, affordable rentals, and a program called Hope Building, which is a paid on-the-job training program for people in recovery. We also created Redbud Financial Alternatives, a consumer lending CDFI designed to take on the predatory lenders. HDA provided 1,000 families a housing solution in our first 25 years, and we're on a mission to serve the next 1,000 families in just 10 years. It's a real honor to be recognized by HAC. There are so many amazing rural housing providers out there doing such great work in difficult circumstances, and to be recognized and selected from that group is truly humbling. I want to thank and recognize the amazing team we have in Hazard. Without our staff and board and partners and funders, and of course our customers, none of this would be possible. Thanks again for this honor, and I look forward to seeing everybody in person at the next conference. Thanks.
Yeah, me too, Scott. There were some pictures circulating online and last night of conferences past. And the fun we have. I'll say I'm better rested this morning for the second day of a hack conference than I've been in a while. Although I did spend a little time at the conference central tiki bar yesterday, enjoying the company of a bunch of folks. So we'll see you there again this afternoon. But we're down to our last awardee, and certainly not the least. We have an awardee that's special to the Hack family because he's part of it. Mike Feinberg has over 40 years of experience working with USDA rural housing programs and helping provide affordable housing for rural Americans. That 40-year career began at USDA itself. Mike rose up through the ranks to branch chief of the single-family direct home loan division. And when he retired, he recognized that one, he had an immense amount of knowledge built up over those years that he could still contribute, and two, he wouldn't get rid of us. We were going to keep calling him until he came and helped us out some more. So he very graciously joined Hack staff, and since he's been here, he's produced amazing research analyzing USDA's housing activity, informed the national debate on USDA policies, helped underwrite some of our loans. He was a co-author of our 2017 landmark study on 515s and rural rental. For over 40 years in and out of government, Mike has been a force for good. It's been an honor to work beside him and watching as he's helped make USDA housing programs more effective for the families who need them most. Congratulations, Mike. It's just an immense honor to present you with a 2021 National Rural Housing Service Award.
I'm honored to receive Hack's Rural Housing Service Award this year. I'd like to thank David Lipsitz and Hack's Board of Directors for selecting me to be among this year's recipients. To Lance George, thank you for bringing me into the family of Hacksters. I've had the opportunity to work closely with Lance over the last 9 years. His guidance and support helped me transition from the mindset of an affordable mortgage lender to that of a researcher. Okay, it's a stretch to say I made the transition. Sometimes I could get bogged down in details of writing an important paper. Lance would always provide useful suggestions to help me get back on track. With his help and with the help of dedicated R&I staff, I participated in some significant research projects. Thank you to Shontaria Charleston and to former Hackster Jeff Mosley. They gave me the opportunity to use my experience to help train local housing organizations on accessing USDA's Section 502 direct program to help people become successful homeowners. Thank you to Moises Lozas, the executive director when I started at Hack. I was always impressed with Moises' vast experience in so many aspects of affordable housing and his gentle but strong demeanor as an advocate for improving conditions in rural America. I would be remiss if I failed to recognize Art Collings, who is no longer with us. When I was at USDA, Art was a regular visitor. He would go from office to office of various staffers, collecting information and sharing his experiences. Many people at this conference today knew Art. I could never fill Art's shoes, but I was pleased to be able to carry on some of the work that he did at Hack. We all do this work to help improve the lives of people in rural communities. There are many roles to play in this endeavor. I have always been interested in solving problems, whether it's making the Section 502 program work better, improving the information Hack provides on USDA housing activities, or addressing some other aspect of affordable housing. I've been very fortunate over the years to work with many great people, at USDA, at HAC, and at our partner organizations. To the people who helped me along the way, and I have not named here, and there are so many of them, thank you for all you do and all you did to accomplish a very important mission. Thank you again for this great honor.
Hello, everyone. I am Samantha Booth, the Government Relations Manager here at HAC, joining you this morning from my beautiful hometown of Bozeman, Montana. Thank you for joining us for this morning's plenary session. I would first like to reiterate our thank you to Chairwoman Maxine Waters and to Congressman Jim Clyburn, the House Democratic Whip. The past 2 years have been a historically busy time in the halls of Congress, and Chairwoman Waters and Whip Clyburn have been two stalwart champions for rural housing and rural priorities more generally. We at HAC greatly appreciate their partnership. I would also like to congratulate all of our Rural Housing Service Award recipients. Your hard work and dedication to the communities you serve is truly an inspiration to us all. Congratulations. Coming up next, we have a series of 5 concurrent workshops for you to choose from, and I would encourage you to drop in and engage in those sessions beginning at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But before that, and before we all depart for the workshops, we have a brief intermission featuring a few great speakers. First, we're going to hear from our friend and colleague, Andrew Dumont at the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, to learn a little bit more about their new book, Investing in Rural Prosperity, which I have already heard mentioned in several conversations during the past few days. After that, we will hear updates from 2 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, Congressman Vicente Gonzalez from Texas and Congresswoman Shelley Pingree from Maine. And to round out the intermission, we will be treated to some entertainment from the Uptown Boys. Thank you again for joining us for this morning's plenary session. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Andrew Dumont. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a good conference so far. My name is Andrew Dumont, and I'm Community Development Analyst at the Federal Reserve Board, where I lead the board's work on rural development, affordable housing, and other place-conscious community development topics. I'd like to thank David and the rest of the team at HAC for their deep, long-term collaboration over the years. I'm also appreciative of the invitation and opportunity to share and provide an overview of a new book titled Investing in Rural Prosperity, which was published on November 16th by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis in collaboration with the Federal Reserve Board. Investing in Rural Prosperity seeks to help rural communities achieve shared economic prosperity. It does so by outlining a framework for how to approach rural development successfully, showcasing stories of progress in different communities, and highlighting potential actions that can be taken by policymakers, practitioners, funders, and researchers. Nearly 80 authors across the United States and abroad contributed chapters to the book, including HAC's very own David Lipsitz, who contributed a chapter on the importance of incorporating geographic equity into federal policymaking and how that might be accomplished. The book's authors represent financial institutions, nonprofits, philanthropies, academia, and government agencies. And the chapters touch on a wide range of topics, including entrepreneurship support, workforce development, energy-efficient manufactured housing, and digital inclusion. The book delves into the challenges of our past and the promise of our future. Ultimately, investing in rural prosperity is a call to action so we can realize that promise together. Coming in at nearly 600 pages spread across 42 chapters and a foreword, there's truly something for everyone. But don't let the book's size scare you. In addition to being able to download the full book for free, each chapter can also be downloaded individually from the St. Louis Fed's website. So you can go as deep as you want or stay targeted on just those chapters that you feel apply directly to your work. If you're like me, maybe you like to feel the paper under your fingers, mark up your books, or dog-ear particularly insightful pages. I'm happy to say that we are coordinating with HAC to ensure you each receive a hard copy of the book free of charge. To download the full book or individual chapters, order additional hard copies for free, or access the other resources we are releasing along with the book, go to stlouisfed.org/investinrural. That's stlouisfed.org/investinrural. If it's easier for you, you can also search for Investing in Rural Prosperity in your favorite web browser, and it should be one of the first results that come up. Again, I'd like to thank HAC for allowing me to raise this new resource to your attention. I hope it provides you with some new insights that allow you to advance your work supporting inclusive economic opportunity in your community. Thank you for all the work you do, and enjoy the rest of your conference.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 National Rural Housing Conference. I'm Congressman Vicente Gonzalez. It's an honor to address you all today. For 50 years, the Housing Assistance Council has helped Americans from diverse backgrounds navigate housing assistance resources and informed local leaders and informed policymakers about issues rural communities are facing. From the Appalachia to the Mississippi Delta and border colonias, HAC has touched and improved the lives of countless American families. Today, we celebrate our progress and prepare for the future. With HAC and the community-based organizations you partner with, we will work to achieve great access to capital and fair, affordable lending, expand and improve access to both digital and physical connectivity by investing in broadband and better interstate highways, and equipping our rural communities to meet the challenges of tomorrow. As a member of the House Financial Services Committee and Select Committee on Economic Disparity and Fairness and Growth, I am committed to making sure federal programs and policies are crafted to fit rural America. It's promising to see provisions included that specifically target low-income housing needs in the historic Build Back Better Act currently making it through Congress. Among other provisions in this legislation is to help low-income Americans to have free pre-K for children 3 and 4, closing the Medicare gap, and assuring that we invest $150 billion into housing affordability, from down payment assistance programs to rental assistance, community development block grants. This is an investment in the future of our country. Not only the Build Back Better Act, it will not attempt to be a one-size-fits-all solution. By seizing opportunities like the Rural Partnership Program, we will further empower rural communities like ours to meet the needs of today. I'm honored to fight for these issues in Washington, D.C. Congratulations on celebrating 50 years of service. Thank you all for all you do in this fight to the most vulnerable communities in America. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, representing the 1st District in the great state of Maine. I wanted to take a moment to wish the Housing Assistance Council a very happy 50th anniversary. Your work is improving the lives of rural Americans from Maine to Alaska and everywhere in between. Affordable housing is one of the greatest challenges Mainers are facing. The housing crisis is not specific to cities like Portland and Bangor. In all of Maine's 16 counties, there isn't a single one in which full-time minimum wage earner can afford to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. I've been proud to support legislation, programs, and federal funding for nonprofits that are working to address the housing crisis, like HAC and Coastal Enterprises, which works to bolster economic opportunity and support affordable housing across Maine. But more must be and can be done to address the crisis. I'm hopeful that historic investments in affordable housing will soon be moving forward through President Biden's Build Back Better agenda. We need this historic legislation to help fill in the gaps for economically underserved communities and tribal nations, allowing our small towns to grow and flourish during a time of heightened need. I assure you I will continue to fight for our shared vision of a future where all have a safe and affordable place to call home. Thank you and take care.
Kage Wibnaha, Ijaje Lathoisa, Wahe Iye Mary Phillips. Thank you for inviting us to your wonderful program for today. We are the Uptown Boys. We are an intertribal drum group based here in DC. And today we are going to sing for you a veterans honoring with songs. The first song is a veteran song. The second song is a flag song or national anthem of the Lakota people. The third song is a victory song. So please join with us, and wherever you're at, if you can stand for the posting of the colors. Weebnaha. Wangithe Wibnaha, we are honored to be here with you at the 2021 Virtual Housing Assistance Council National Rural Housing Conference. The Uptown Boys supports the immense mission of the Housing Assistance Council and to support the improvement of housing conditions for America's most vulnerable and poor, especially in our country's most rural of places. We hope you enjoy our next song, the Unchi song, or Brave Heart song, which originates in A'ani, Pakani, Siksika, Blackfoot Confederacy.